to your point about even like playing around the Twin Cities these days and coming into contact with the younger crowd, and you want to come alongside and be like, hey guys, you got a little bit of work to do. I was actually talking recently with my friend Gabe. Gabe Hagan is his name. He used to live in Minneapolis. He's now out here in the West Coast as well. He's the guy that took over for me in Owl City when I left that band. Gabe became the Owl City drummer, but he's done a handful of other things. We were talking about Instagram and the way that, okay, because of social media and because of the way the professional realm of musicians, like the guys who actually have the goods, the guys who can play, the guys who have the confidence, all that stuff, as that level of the industry engages with social media, it gives the opportunity for younger guys to see how the talk is talked in a way that they couldn't before. Like when I was 20, I learned how the pros talk by hanging around the pros.
Right.
And if I didn't have an opportunity to hang around the pros, I wouldn't have learned it. At this point, the younger crowd is learning how the pros talk by watching them on Instagram. And what they're seeing is like, you know, the way I would refer to a ride cymbal or the kinds of gear that I like, or even like the way I would talk about expectations on a gig or whatever. You know, I'm doing a podcast or something. There's just a lot of opportunity for the younger folks to learn about the culture of professional music, but nothing within that culture necessarily shows them that they're not good enough at playing yet.
Yeah.
So like these younger guys are they're absorbing the speech patterns and the attitudes of pro level players, and they don't have any chops to back it up. Right. Yeah. Except it makes it harder. This is what Gabe was pointing out. It makes it harder and harder for us on the professional level to discern the difference, because when a young guy rolls in talking to talk, he knows all the lingo. He knows all the vernacular. He's got the attitude. I think to myself, like, oh, this dude must have the goods. And then he starts playing, and it's like, whoa, he does not. This guy sucks. Or, I mean, I should be more respectful.
How do you broach that
this
subject?
kid's got a long way to go still.
Right. How do you broach that subject?
He's got a long way to go still, but he pulled the wool over my eyes.
Yeah.
With his lingo and his vernacular and his attitude. They made me think that he had chops that he doesn't really have.
The younger generation, knowing how to speak the speak and talk the talk, and everything is showing up, and we giving them the benefit of the doubt that they can play, and all of a sudden they sit down. It's like, ooh.
I mean, dude, before social media came along, you didn't know how to talk the talk,
right?
Unless you had been around people who did it, and you wouldn't be around them if you couldn't play.
That's so when true. You wouldn't get the nod or the invite.
Exactly. So when someone rolls up and they've got the vernacular and they've got the lingo and they've got the attitude, we're not too far removed from the years where like that meant they probably had the chops. And now social media has given essentially, and I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a little bit of a tough
cart before
challenge
the horse.
Now. Yeah, well, it's difficult to discern who's who, because somebody comes in and they've got the gear, they've got the attitude, they've got the vernacular, you know, they've got the whole, like, even just like insider, like idioms and idiosyncrasies about how to communicate about certain things. It's like, oh, you called it that. That means you probably know what you're doing. And then they sit down and play. Like, they do not know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so how do we fix that? It's like, how do we, as the guys who, and I want to be somewhat gentle about how the level to which I congratulate myself on being a professional, right? But like, here I am, I'm at this level, I've done these things, and I have this relationship with the instrument. How do I show the younger guys that that's what matters, as opposed to just the things that they see on my social media, the way that I speak and the way that I look and that kind of thing. Like I remember having flight cases for the first time, like the kind of cases, you know, like ATA cases.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I got a bunch of those from like Goodwill and other places. Spray painted my name on the side, like, you know, spray painted in black, got my name on the side and all this kind of stuff, because I was like scrambling for ways to communicate to people when I showed up to a gig that I meant business.
Yeah.
so I remember, rolling into that Blenders tour that I mentioned, and I had really nice drums in cases that said my name on the side.
Right.
And the production manager on the tour was kind of like, "Oh, what's up, dude?" Like, hey, like he was kind of like, "Oh, this kid is pretty young, but he apparently knows what he's doing." And I did, in the sense that I had done all the work as a player, and I just didn't know how to get into the game of the networking thing. And I guess Instagram, in a way, kind of like gives all these 19, 20-year-old drummers or musicians, it's kind of like giving them, it's like they've all got cases with their name on the side and can barely play. And it's like, oh shoot, now that's not an indication that we can use anymore as to whether or not you're trustworthy.
Yeah.
It's an interesting predicament is all I'm saying.